On this trip, I'm heading to my super secret deer hunting spot prior to the season. I'm sharing my knowledge of the woods, spending time with my dog, building a ground blind, and having a backcountry lunch. Come along for the ride.
Well, I was born just west of the river, Mississippi mud running in my veins, and on the road is where I found freedom, and hotel rooms is where I found peace. I spent my whole life running from Iowa. It's gonna be a long way home. And it's gonna take
Koa's just flying up.
It's gonna take my heart and soul.
Not even slowing down. Temperature's not too bad right now, but I will say the pollen count or whatever, I don't know, something's making my allergies go nuts. It's probably some, I don't know, some sort of fall blooming plant, but if I'm sniffling or sneezing or whatever, you know why. Also, coming into the woods this time of year, middle of August, bugs are just everywhere. It is an inevitability that you're gonna have to deal with some sort of stinging, flying insect. And that's just part of the game. Whitetail scouting this time of year, hanging stands or building blinds or just hanging trail cameras, that's just what you gotta deal with. Koa's having a good time. I can't wait to pull off like 40 ticks from him. It's gonna be so much fun. Not. It's actually a very pleasant temperature and an overall beautiful day. I think it's probably around 70 degrees, a nice light breeze. So I couldn't have asked for a better morning to come out here and do this. But you still just gotta deal with those factors that I mentioned earlier. There's a couple deer tracks. That right there is a red oak acorn. You can tell it's a red oak because it's fatter than it is long. And if I can find a white oak, I'll show you guys. But that's a red oak. That's probably a whitetail's second favorite food, right behind white oak acorns. Now this one, on the other hand, is a white oak. So you can see it's a little bit longer. And if we compare two of them, red, white, you can tell the difference right there. It's a good sign though. This woods is absolutely littered with oak trees. So I'm not shocked at all that we found some acorns right off the bat. I'm looking forward to seeing if they're dropping on the interior right here where we're actually going. There you go. Some chicken of the woods mushrooms right there, I believe. Oh yeah. And this also has to be one of the biggest acorns I've ever seen. Look how big that thing is. Whenever you're cutting these off, you always want to make sure you use a nice sharp knife. Pick off any of the bugs that are on there. Pretty big. These things, whenever you fry them up, they have like a nice meaty texture. Very, very tasty. Oh my gosh, I think I just found the mother lode over here. Look at that. Look how many there are. Oh my goodness. Now those are a little bit smaller. Not as much going on there, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see a bunch of it because it's been raining here quite a bit these past few days. And those mushrooms survive very well in the fall, you know, right at the beginning of fall, whenever there's a lot of rain that comes through. So they'll position themselves on dead, decaying wood, typically from oak trees, and they sprout real big whenever it rains a lot. So those are probably gonna get bigger over time. I'm not gonna take any of them. I got the one in my backpack right now, and that should be good for me for right now. But we're gonna keep on going, keep on hiking through. This is beautiful country. I absolutely love it up here. We're on top of this ridge line, and a ton of rub lines, as you guys will be able to see. You know, I'll show you a little bit while we're walking through here, but there's a bunch of sign and a bunch of rubs up here that I'm very interested in getting a trail camera on. So we're gonna keep walking around, keep looking for stuff. So as you can see right here, this is a blackberry bush, and these are actually super delicious. You can eat them. But you can see here on the tips how it's all browsed off. It looks like someone took like a pair of clippers and just clipped away at it. That's actually deer, so they will eat these. They'll eat these definitely, but they're not gonna have these last couple because they are freaking good. But yeah, you can see that they were munching on this right here, and then if I go literally right behind me, there's an old rub where a deer came in and was scraping its antlers right here and rubbed a bunch of this bark off. So this is an area, this is a hot spot where they do a lot of feeding. You can just see these acorns are everywhere around here, just everywhere. And those are white oaks too, so this is a good spot to mark on the map. Possibly hang a tree stand up around somewhere. Now what I also like to do is I'll stand in areas that I could picture a deer walking through. I mean, right here there's a nice trail, a nice deer path that walks this way, right through this patch of acorn, you know, all the acorns that are on the ground. There's oak trees up above. I'll take my rangefinder out and I'll just range trees, see how far away they are, and just pick out ones that would be good for concealment, good for cover. You know, that one's 23 yards away, 25 yards. I mean, that's kind of the sweet spot range that you're looking for, 30 yards over there. And whenever you do that, you can kind of identify specific trees that you're going to want to sit at. I like to go in a full circle too, so that based on any wind direction, you can come hunt this spot. I mean, some wind directions are going to be worse than others, but what I'm really trying to do is identify multiple options in one specific area. And there are plenty of options out here for sure. You can see right here you have some old dead animal. Looks like a raccoon fur. There's a lot of coyotes back in these woods. Whenever I put cameras out, I always see a bunch of them. So I'm not surprised to find this here. Now I'm not gonna say this because I want to act all high and mighty or anything, but if you ever see, you know, a bottle or some empty bottle whenever you're just out walking through the woods and you got space to carry it, just pick it up. You know, we're all kind of stewards of the land here, trying to make sure, keep it clean. And if you could even just pick up one piece of garbage, that's one less piece of trash that's going to be sitting out here for, you know, the next 50 years. So go ahead out there and, you know, pick up some trash if you got some space. If you don't have space to carry it around, that's perfectly fine, or it's gross, that's, you know, that's fine. Just always be conscious of it and don't just walk past whenever you see something. I keep seeing Koa like way out in the distance. He'll kind of walk away from me a little bit, like 30 or 40 yards, and then I'll start coming back and I'll see him walking around. I forget that he's with me and he'll just like scare the crap out of me. I'm like thinking it's like a bear or some sort of animal. There's a ton of these berries, a ton of them. Okay, now this might be a little bit harder to tell what it is, but you can see right here there's a nice flat spot. It's kind of covered in leaves because it's old. But if you look up here, you see that this branch is a little bit busted right here. This is used as a licking branch for scrapes. So whenever whitetail are in the pre-rut phases before their breeding season, they'll come by and there'll be these scrapes where they'll paw out with their hooves down below, and then they'll rub their face and their antlers over these branches, and it acts kind of as like a communication type area where all these deer are coming by and they're using this trail and basically coming to see, you know, who's in the area. So that's a very good sign. I'm gonna follow this trail. I'm gonna mark that and I'm gonna follow this trail. And hopefully I can find a couple more like this. I've been in this area before and I've marked a few places where I've seen scrapes and rubs. So I'm gonna try and hit those spots again, see if I can kind of put some more pieces together. Now this spot I'm at right here, I had a really cool encounter with a buck last year chasing, I think there were 3 does, or 2 does and a fawn with him, and he was chasing the crap out of this one doe. He was a little bit smaller than legal, but he seemed like an older buck. His antlers were thick, just not that many points. In Pennsylvania, you have to have 3 on one side, and I believe he only had two on either side. But it seemed like an older deer, just the way he was chasing the does around. But yeah, he came running in right here and was chasing around. I was sitting up in the tree stand. It was a really cool experience. But this is an awesome spot because there are rub lines down this trail, and this is kind of where I was planning on putting my trail camera, because you know the most action I've seen is in this area. Now this historically has been a pretty good access point for me to get up to this spot. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim some of these briars right here and make a better path to get down to where I usually come in at. Now you might be asking why I'm going down this really steep hill right here. And it's because usually the bucks and the highly pressured deer, they're gonna avoid the flat ridges. I already saw two trail cameras up there and 2 deer stands on the top, but there's nothing on these hillsides. So if you can figure out a way where these deer are crossing the hillside, finding a path where they're crossing back and forth on this hillside, you're gonna have a higher likelihood of finding those pressured deer whenever inevitably there's hunters that are up there using those stands. So finding a secondary option is always crucial. So that's why we're going through this thick stuff, trying to find a trail that parallels the ridgeline. And as you can see, we have a lot more thick stuff to go. You were gone for a while, buddy. Did you find anything? You find any sign? This looks like a pretty nice trail right here. I'm definitely not surprised to find this trail right here, because there's a nice soft edge up here, which basically means really thick brush turns into relatively thick brush. There's not too much of a difference. Like a hard edge would be like a tree line next to a cornfield. Soft edge is more briars and bush, and then less briars and less bush, basically. So I think this is where I'm gonna set up my trail cam. Probably gonna point it up. I don't know, I gotta find a good tree first, because I wanna be close to this trail, but I also wanna be able to hit a lot of this area, because chances are the deer's not gonna travel directly on this path. It's gonna be somewhere in this area. So finding a good spot will be pretty crucial right here. Now I'm gonna hang it on this little thing right here, because all of this is kind of open up here. Down here, there's not really a whole lot of space for a deer to be navigating. So I think if I position it this way, I'm not gonna miss too much action. Oh no. Well, maybe that's good that it happened now and not a couple months in, whenever it's hanging here for a while. All right, well, there you have it right there. Fingers crossed it works, because I've been having a lot of issues with these cameras recently. So I'm just hoping that I pick up some pictures, and hopefully it even sends them to my phone. That would be an added bonus, but I would just like to collect pictures from this thing when I come around here during hunting season. It's my only goal. Now time to hike down to the creek. Now you can always tell whenever you're near or close to deer, because you can smell it's like kind of like a musty smell. and I can smell deer, absolutely. If we check the wind, and this is what I like to do whenever I do smell deer. So I'll check the wind, see which way it's blowing. It's blowing that way, so that means that right up where I came from, just somewhere in that general area, there has been at one point deer, and very recently at that. And that's right where I came from. So I'm pretty happy with where my trail camera placement is. This is also very interesting, this mountain, and I don't know if anyone has any insight into this, but there's trails that just go straight up. You know, you wouldn't expect to see a trail, but it just goes straight up the mountain right here. Now, I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that's, you know, a coyote trail or a deer trail. Not sure, but there's a bunch of them around here. And I will say they make very, very good entry points for tree stands. You know, if you follow these up, specifically in the afternoon when the thermals are coming down, or early in the morning when the thermals are dropping, you're gonna get a good access point if you're going and hunting this mountain right here. It's definitely a lot stronger down here, the smell of deer, kind of that mustiness. So again, wind's blowing this way from right to left. I'm right now standing on another trail right here. You can see it runs right along here and cuts off to the left, and that's where we're going down into by the water. I'm assuming that deer use this trail a lot, specifically in the summer, because it's within range of water, yet it's also in the cover. And you guys will see here in a minute, but there's also this right here, right along the trail. This is a very old rub, but there's new pieces to it. So last year, I remember this thing was all rubbed up. It was all gnarly. And there's gonna be quite a few more of those on this trail. So overlooking, that's the trail that we were just on right down here. Overlooking this trail up on top of the hill, there's this brush, this stuff that's fallen down. And this would also be a really good spot for kind of like a midday sit, specifically whenever it's hotter, because those deer are going to be going down to water and they're going to be using this trail more often. So finding a place to set up a ground blind up here would be a perfect location. You guys probably can't tell how steep this is, but man, it is steep and very thick. It's like almost like a controlled fall trying to get down there. There's a track right there. And this is why I love this spot so much, is because there's it's a very diverse environment. You can go up top and you have oak ridge lines where there's a bunch of oak trees, a bunch of acorns, and you know, not too much water. And then you can come down here into these valleys and it's all lowland, kind of marshy, swampy, ground's really wet, a lot of water. It honestly creates a perfect habitat for deer because they can travel up and down without too much of an issue. But it makes it hard to figure them out because they have so much habitat to work with down here. Now this right here, guys, is a prime example of a community scrape dash rub line. So if we take a look, and I'll spin you around right here, we have deer tracks galore. They're everywhere right here, all in here. See them right there, all that stuff. And then if you take a look above, you can see this branch has just been torn to shreds and it's hanging low right here. Now in the fall, this is just going to be like the hood of a car in size, and it's going to be all wet and muddy because they love coming right down this trail right here, and they just hit this and then go back into the thick stuff. I really want to concentrate effort into hunting this spot a little bit more efficiently. To try and do that, I'm going to create a ground blind right here that overlooks this scrape. I want to make sure I set it up in a good spot because the wind historically usually blows this way. So it'll come this way towards the scrape like that. So if a deer's going to come in, they're probably going to swoop downwind of it. So it's going to be on that side of the scrape. And then they're going to come in, work it, and then keep moving on. So I want to create a ground blind here with some of this deadfall where I can hunt it consistently. And I also have to take into consideration the thermals, because there's a creek that flows down through here that pulls the wind this way, you know, pulls it downstream. So it's gonna be a challenge. I'm gonna think about it right now, how I wanna do it, but there's a bunch of dead wood around here, and I'm gonna try and construct something here real fast. And yeah, hopefully this will be my spot that I kill a big buck this year. That's the goal. And you might also ask, why don't just use a tree stand? The reason is because these trees, I mean, they're not very tree stand worthy. And even if I do get up there in these trees, the bark is so loud and these branches just hang so low and it's so thick that, yeah, I could set up right here on this tree, but the buck's gonna see me from a mile away. There's no real cover up in the treetops. So making sure that I'm staying low on the ground provides me a lot more cover. So like I said, there's a creek that flows from this direction this way. Historic wind usually comes this way. So more than likely these deer are gonna be approaching from back behind me right here. Now, how am I going to position myself in a way that'll allow me a shot at this scrape right here? I'm about to figure it out, but you can see the wind is blowing that way right now, blowing straight this way. So pretty consistent with what I've been talking about. Koa found the water over there, so he's been swimming around in the water. He was probably really hot. Oh man, and you can see them just absolutely tearing up these branches right here. These are old, but you know, like I said, they're not rubbing their velvet off quite yet. So this is where they'll be doing it. Just for reference, scrapes right here, and then these are right here. Now I think the best way for me to utilize this creek to its fullest potential and to avoid the prominent wind direction, staying down in the actual creek bed itself is going to keep my scent low, and it's going to keep it flowing downstream. So as long as I walk the creek in here, I think I might be able to avoid detection, you know, at least for a little bit. Now you really got to see the vision here. So I'm on the opposite side of the stream underneath this tree, and that scrape is straight through there. Now there's a lot of stuff in the way right now, but you got to remember, in the fall, at the end of October, whenever bucks are really going to be using these scrapes, all of this is going to be dead and it's going to be low. And even if it's not low, it's still going to be dead, and I'll be able to go and chop it down. But right here seems like a great spot to put a nice blind, a nice ground blind. And not to mention that I'll also be able to I'll have access through this stream, and I'll be able to see over here to the left too. Now the only problem is, back behind me there are also deer trails, but I'm just gonna have to not even think about it because I'm really focused on that scrape right there. And if those deer are coming and circling downwind on that side, on the far side, then I should be okay on this side. See all these deer tracks right here coming down to water. Gonna move all my stuff over there and start working. This might be a little hard. Go ahead, take it. Don't knock that over. Ah. Whew. My goodness. You're crazy for sticks. Here. He wants to fetch. Now I really want to make sure I'm utilizing what's already here. So these two trees right here, those are going to be my connection point on this side. And then these two, I need one more about that size. Going to be my connection point on this side. These beavers around here just do this with their teeth. Now I will say this would be a hell of a lot easier if I had some rope, but this might actually work. So we just want to make sure it's nice and flexible. Go. Now, this is by no means the end result, but gives you a little bit of an idea of what I'm trying to do here. I don't want to throw too many of these weeds down on top here first, because they're going to die eventually. So I'm just going to leave them sit here, and once I come back in the fall, whenever I actually am hunting this spot, I'll sure it up a little bit. You know, I'll cut some more down, all of the dead stuff. I'll kind of pile that on top, and you can kind of see where I'm going from here. It's just create a nice little structure where I can put dead debris and stuff in front of me, so that whenever those deer are coming to that scrape, I'm gonna have a good spot to sit and be able to pull my bow back without being seen too much. All right, now that I got that somewhat taken care of, I am going to make some lunch. Go ahead, go play. No, you don't want that. But the main thing that's on the menu for us today is bratwurst in tortillas. Now, Sammy had a great idea for the name, and we're gonna call it a brat in a cot. Ingenious idea. There you have it, a brat in a cot by the stream. Sit. Oh yeah. Now they're chicken bratwurst, so it's okay for him to have them. Now that my infrastructure is in place, I know it doesn't look very good right now, but once the season comes, all this stuff back here is going to be dead. I'll be able to pull that off, layer it nice and thick around there, and we'll have a great blind. Now it's time for Koa and I to walk out of here. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys learned at least a little bit. That was awesome, cool. Love spending time out in the woods, especially with the dog. I have a new announcement. So our website just went live, the updated version, somethinginthewild.com. Go check it out. We have our YouTube link there, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. We have a blog there. And also, if you want to get in touch with me, you can fill out inquiries directly, and you know, submit some stuff. If you want to see something, if you want to talk about something, whatever, submit that on the website. Again, somethinginthewild.com. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Something in the Wild. We post videos like this every Thursday, and then we post a podcast on Tuesday talking about our adventures. So be sure to check that out and make sure to keep it wild.